Well, I'm back again on THT for THC. I think at this point I'm going to talk about briefly about choice, uh, the pro-life movement and the pro-choice movement. Um, I've been pro-choice for ever since my teenage years. As soon as I kind of understood, you know, where pregnancies came from. And in the late 60s, I read The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich, and it made me a um, strong advocate for population control um, because there just isn't enough resource on the planet to support all of the humans that are living here now in a sustainable way. In other words, we have to deplete non-replenishable natural resources to allow humans living on the planet today to uh, live happy and meaningful lives. Well, since they're, according to me and Paul Ehrlich and the people at the Population Connection, and most people that have considered the issue of population at any to any depth realize that there are too many people already, and our numbers are ever increasing. If there were only a billion people on the planet, billion humans, like there were in about 1800, then even using fossil fuels the way we use them today would probably have a nearly negligible effect in the over the course of a few centuries, uh, because each one of us would only use so much energy stored in fossil fuels, and so that would be, if there are 7 billion people on the planet today, that would be 1/7 of what we would be contributing if there were only a billion people on the planet today. But there aren't. There are 7 billion plus, and numbers growing all the time, and each individual creating more CO2 as industrialization and modernization enters the third world, especially China and India, but also Africa and Central and South America and Asia. Uh, the United States population, except for immigration, is fairly stable. Population of other nations is other third world nations is still increasing rather rapidly, and the amount of fossil fuel used by each individual in those nations is also increasing as time goes by. So somehow or another, we need to control population. If we already have too many humans on the planet to sustain human life in a desirable way, then obviously it would be a good idea to have fewer people. And certainly, if it's a good idea to have fewer people, then it's a good idea to not have babies born that are not wanted. It would be nice if all pregnancies were planned, uh, and most that go to term are planned, but at least in this country and the industrialized world. But even those that are unplanned may be wanted, and there should be, I see no reason why people that women that want to carry a pregnancy to term should not be allowed to do so. But women that don't want to carry a pregnancy to term are doing us all a favor by not adding to the human population numbers. when I said that I am pro-life and pro-choice, what I was saying is that I am obviously pro-life. I'm a physician. I've spent my adult life trying to lessen the pain and suffering of my fellow humans. I've delivered several thousand babies. I was very active in obstetrics for 18 years. No longer doing obstetrics, but was a leading obstetrical provider here in Arkansas for 18 years. Also, a leading abortion provider here in Arkansas for, let me see, 37 years, 38 years, 37 years. When I say I'm pro-life, I prove it by pointing at my 6 children that I've fathered and supported, never requiring any assistance from the state to support those children. I love children. I have a few grandchildren. My children have not had children at the same rate that I did. Fortunately for them and for you, they aren't adding to the human burden on the planet as I did. The people that claim that they are pro-life are, I'm sure they're honest, or they really are pro-life, just like I'm pro-life. But they're anti-choice. In other words, their position is a woman should not have the right to choose whether or not she has a child. That choice should be left up to them or the government. So their position is what I call an anti-choice position. I have a pro-choice position. We both have a pro-life position. I have resuscitated what I called peanuts, premature infants born prematurely, and have successfully stabilized them, helped them make it to an ICU where they were able to be provided for, and now many of them are healthy, functioning adults. And I'm proud of that work that I did. I'm proud of saving those, the lives of those peanuts, as I call them. And I'm also proud of the many lives I've saved of the women who sought and benefited from my care as an abortion provider. A statistic that isn't spoken of much, but needs to be spoken of much more, so I'm speaking of it now, is that for a white American woman, the chances of dying associated with pregnancy and childbirth and the postpartum period are 25 times greater than the chances of that same woman dying if she terminates her pregnancy in the first 2 trimesters. That is, before 24 weeks of gestation. So it's much, much, much safer for a white woman, a Caucasian woman in the United States, to terminate a pregnancy than it is for her to carry that pregnancy to term. Not only if she decides to carry the pregnancy, which I'm glad my mother decided to carry her pregnancy with me to term. She had, I found out much later in life, terminated 2 or 3 pregnancies before I came along. So I was the lucky embryo that made it. And I'm glad she carried that pregnancy to term. And I'm sure you're glad your mother carried her pregnancy with you to term. But in doing so, not only did she increased the risk of her dying dramatically, 25-fold, not 25%, 25-fold, assuming you're a white person. But she increased her risk of having all kinds of other problems, episiotomy problems, postpartum depression problems, gestational diabetes problems, hypertension problems, preeclampsia problems, and problems associated with stria gravidarum and vaginal laxity and urinary incontinence that just go along with carrying a pregnancy to term. All women that decide to carry a pregnancy to term, and God bless them for doing it, incur great risk, not just to their life, but to their well-being associated with that decision to have a child. I'm a man. I don't know if I would willingly take on that burden. But fortunately for my children, and for me also, my children's mothers made that decision and carried their pregnancies to term, and therefore I have wonderful, loving children. But they shouldn't have been forced to. And some of them had at previous times decided to terminate a pregnancy because the timing wasn't right for them to have a child at that time, and then later they went ahead and had a child that happened to be fathered by me. God bless them. But they should not ever have been forced to risk their life and their physical well-being to be forced to have a child. Forced birth is a form of slavery, because once the child is here, the vast majority of mothers will dedicate much of the rest of their life to the well-being of that offspring. A woman shouldn't be forced to decide to become that form of indentured servant. It is not the right of me or you or the society at large to force a woman to accept the serious and real risks of pregnancy and childbirth. It is not our right to force women to carry pregnancies to term. It's not our right. More on this subject later.